there's a memo that leaked from Meta CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, Andrew Bosworth. Basically, it went out to his Reality Labs team, and if you read the whole thing, and I'll read through a good chunk of it, it's basically platitudes and a rah-rah speech. But there's a salient point in here that I really think needs to be pointed out. The original story is from Upload VR, and it was leaked to the Business Insider, which is a paywall subscription service, so I cannot read it from there. But the entirety of the memo is in full here on the Upload VR article. Next year is going to be the most critical year in my 8 years at Reality Labs. We have the best portfolio of products we've ever had in market and are pushing our advantage by launching half a dozen more AI-powered wearables. We need to drive sales, retention, and engagement across the board, but especially in mixed reality. And Horizon Worlds on mobile absolutely has to break out for our long-term plans to have a chance. If you don't feel the weight of history on you, then you aren't paying attention. This year likely determines whether this entire effort will go down as the work of visionaries or a legendary misadventure. Skipping the next part because he talks about the book he read. On paper, 2024 was our most successful year to date, but we aren't sitting around celebrating because we know it isn't enough. We haven't actually made a dent in the world yet. The prize for good work is the opportunity to do great work. I have an old manager who used to talk like this. I'm like, greatness is our opportunity. We live in an incredible time of technological achievement and have placed ourselves at the center of it with our investments. There's a good chance most of us will never get a chance like this again. Next platitude, greatness is a choice. Many people have been at the precipice of opportunity and failed to achieve. For the most part, they fail to even challenge themselves. Next headline, you should be doing the best work of your career right now. I'm getting a headache just reading this, but I'm going somewhere with this. Just hear me out. You should be pushing yourself to grow where needed and doubling down on your strengths. When you look back on this time, I want you to feel like you did everything in your power to make the most of it. You don't need big teams to do great work. This point I actually agree with. In fact, it may make it harder. One trend I've observed the last couple of years is that our smaller teams often go faster and achieve better results than our more generously funded teams. Not only that, they're much happier. Tell that to Ready at Dawn. Just saying. Last bit, the path is clear. You don't need to come up with a bunch of new ideas to do this great work. Most people in the organization just need to execute on the work laid out before them to succeed. It's about operational excellence. It's about master craftsmanship. It's about fulfilling our products with a give a damn. This is about having pride in our work. And then he closed out. Okay, so couple of things. Number one, this memo is 3 months old, and I think that the reason this leaked now is because the head of VR and MR, Mark Rapkin, announced that he's leaving the company in March. If you read the whole statement from Mark Rapkin, it really comes off like he's doing this for family reasons. And frankly, he's probably made enough money at this point that he can afford to take a year or two off, if not longer, to concentrate on his family. But I think it's kind of convenient that he announces this and then like a day or two later, this whole thing leaks. Meta's ambition for VR is far, far, far beyond gaming. They talked about they were launching, what did he say, half a dozen wearables? Or pushing our advantage by launching half a dozen more AI wearables, and then they need to drive sales, retention, all that stuff. They're about to launch half a dozen new products, which is insane for any tech company, let alone for one that really just recently got into tech in like the last 8 or 9 years or so. If they're trying to kind of get into the point where like their headsets and headsets in general are the true spatial computers, and they're that ubiquitous device that every single person has to have in their home, because right now it's nowhere near that. If they're saying that 2025 is a make or break year, which kind of breaks with what Zuckerberg said about this not being profitable until 2030, I'm curious what happens if any of these products tank. A lot of the rhetoric I've seen is that, you know, VR is poised for, you see the stuff for content creators online, VR is poised for greatness in 2025. 2025 might be the best year in VR ever. I mean, they're talking about stuff that Valve might launch a new headset, or, you know, Sony might do something huge, which probably not. Or here's the Samsung Google thing coming, and now Apple's in the game. 2025 is poised to be this breakout year. I'm going to remind people of this, and I remind people of this all the time. 2024 saw more layoffs in the gaming industry and in the tech industry in general than any year in the last decade. So as companies are getting, you know, leaner and more efficient and all that stuff, they're really hitting breaking points. And even a company as big as Meta is not immune from that, because Meta's laid off, I think, 15,000 people in the last 2 years. They're feeling the crunch too. They're not immune from any of this stuff. So I think I read this memo and I saw this I didn't see this so much as like a rah-rah speech as a, hey guys, we're hitting critical mass. in a point where we got to start turning a profit very, very soon, or there are going to be some major shifts in direction and changes. And honestly, that's a little scary, because if your market leader is saying stuff like this, and I'm just reading between the lines, and if the company that has been pouring billions into this is already starting to get wary about this, where does that lead the rest of the industry? With the other companies who can't afford to pour that amount of money into it, and more importantly, can't afford to continually lose that amount of money into it. Meta has lost billions and billions of dollars in this industry over the last however long since they bought Oculus. So what, about 6 or 7 years now? They can't continue to keep doing that. I've seen all that stuff about, 2025 is going to be this great year. I think it's more of a make or break year, because Meta's already shifted their marketing in a different direction, away from like straight up gaming into multiple other verticals, multiple other markets. Sony, we know what Sony's doing with VR. They put out the PC adapter last month, or excuse me, they put out the PC adapter last year to make PSVR 2 compatible with PC. And while that push sells a little bit, the biggest push that PSVR 2 got was when they cut the price from $550 to $350, because that made it more affordable for a lot of people. Beyond that, they haven't done much. Valve has done pretty much radio silence since 2020. Thank you for the correction. They did not lose billions of dollars. They invested in research and development. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. I appreciate that. But at some point, that has to start paying off. Because I don't think stuff like this comes out if they're not like kind of concerned about their direction. I think they believe in their direction, but they also know that this stuff has to generate results, or all that money that has been invested in R&D is going to just be flushed down the toilet, and then I got to start all over again. So this is a near decade-long project that needs to start showing returns, or they're going to bail and go do something else.